Here I draw a line in the sand. This is a very famous phrase that in the English language that we've all heard of, and a lot of us also put into practice many times. What it essentially means is this is something that I'm doing to protect and look after my energy and time and myself. In modern terms, this concept is what we call boundaries. And there is a lot of resources and content out there on boundaries. But the video that I am going to be talking about in this video is really inspired by the conversations that I've been having with a lot of my new LinkedIn followers when they're talking about their struggles or challenges that they have when they're working with their patients. So I just thought, let's just start making a video series about that. So in this video, we're going to cover what may be some reasons behind why you as a healthcare professional may be struggling to set boundaries with your patients. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, for the ones who don't know me, my name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals who are from English as a second language backgrounds essentially become better, more empathetic, impactful and influential communicators with the ultimate aim of making them better connectors and collaborators with their patients and achieve excellence in their workplace. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I've been having conversations with a lot of my new followers on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. Here's my profile, in case you want to go and follow me over there. And they have all been saying to me that the biggest challenge that I come across in our conversations from time to time is that they really struggle to set boundaries with their patients. Now, some of them don't even know what their boundaries are, and some, even though they've enforced it, they just don't really know how to enforce it and put it into practice, so to speak. Now, some people are good at it and some people are not. So this inspired me to make a series of videos about how they can go about doing that. Now, one of the people that I interviewed on my channel, Susan Murray, talks a lot about boundaries. Now, I can link her interview over here. Now, in our conversation, we had like one question about boundaries. But if you want to go and check that particular question out, by all means, go ahead and do that. But if you do want to follow her and learn more about boundaries, her socials are all over here. I'll just link them below. But she is very good at boundaries. But I thought this video, we will talk specifically about what are some reasons why healthcare providers might struggle to enforce boundaries. And this is a question that my new followers, I would encourage you to really reflect on this, whether you've been doing this via the DMs that I've been sending you, or if you want to do it after you've watched this video. Now, I'm just going to go into 4 key reasons that I have experienced and also what I have really witnessed and observed by conversations with my new followers. So let's get straight into it. Number 1 is people-pleasing tendencies. So we are conditioned from a very young age to always be the bigger person and basically not say anything that's going to offend or upset or rub people the wrong way, always putting others before yourself. So you're sort of expected as a woman in particular, and especially from a woman who comes from my cultural background, that's literally all I heard all the time, that you have to put others before you. You cannot say this or you cannot say that. You can't be your blunt, direct self, as I always am. So I'm very, very well aware of this. I grew up in that environment where this is what I was told to do. You have to always respect authority figures or respect people who are elder to you. So if they say something that's considered God's word, and you just have to follow that as you go along. If you don't do that, there will be shame upon you. There will be people who will look down on you. You face the risk of being cut off by family and friends and the bigger community. And I think particularly if you work in the healthcare role, where it is a role where you are pretty much responsible for the well-being of your patients and not just their physical health, but even the bigger picture. It's very easy to fall into this trap that, if I say something or do something, it's going to make the patient lose trust in me or going to make them more upset than they already are. So this is a huge reason, and it's not just applicable to healthcare providers, it's just for everybody. So a huge reason why boundaries, how to enforce them and put them into practice may be a challenge for you. Second one is the fear of consequences of setting those boundaries. Now, this could range anywhere between losing your job or, for example, upsetting or offending patients, like I just mentioned in the previous one, and receiving poor feedback. Some of my new followers have told me that, their patients would just take the liberty to sort of contact that particular healthcare provider when they're out of hours. So, when they all know that this is the time where, they know that this particular provider cannot be contacted, or, they would just drop in to the clinic without making an appointment. And I remember when I was growing up in India, my mom was exactly like, my mom used to have the same problem. There would be people, and I'm not talking about the ones this were educated people who were, who had standards, who had class, who came from a good family, not the ones who were living below poverty. She did used to work with them as well, but there used to be people who were just like us, from a middle class family, who there's no concept of boundaries, and they would just, drop by unannounced, and they would just sort of word vomit all their health challenges and expect things to be given for free. And at that time, my mother used to be very fearful that, she's going to upset this particular person. And to a large extent, and this is not me throwing her under the bus, she still has that problem. She's very happy to work, say, 20 hours a day, because even though she was given the opportunity to take 2 periods of long service leave, which is, long service leave in Australia basically means that after you've done, say, 10 years in one workplace, so in her case, she's a doctor, she's been in the same hospital for 10 years, you can take about 4 or 5 months off. She had 2 opportunities to do that. She declined both of them because she feels that the department that she manages will just fall apart without her, which is not true. And here I'm doing the exact opposite. So I've learned a lot from the culture that I grew up in, and in particular, some of the mistakes that my mom has made. And I said to myself that I will never do that. So that's an example of where you can feel like you're afraid of the consequences. You might feel that, if I'm not the one who's doing this for this patient or this colleague or this department or whatever, things will just crumble. It will not function without me. And which ties in very well with a lot of healthcare providers having a hero complex. So they feel like they are the only ones whose job it is to fix all the problems in the world. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. That's just the conditioning that you receive. But it becomes a problem when you're not able to set boundaries or being aware of what they are. So that's why it's important. But I will look into how to do that and what boundaries are and aren't in forthcoming videos. Now, which brings me very well into the next point, which is the very nature of your role as a healthcare provider. Because obviously, the job that you do, your patients depend on you heavily, and you might feel like you're the only person who can save them, and you're the only person who can help and support them, and you are very fearful of letting your patients down. Now, let's say, for example, you might be someone like a therapist who works with patients who have mental health problems, and if you don't have good boundaries in place, you run the same risk that I just talked about a while ago, where patients will just take your word and your time and your space and your working hours and your energy for granted, and they will just know that they can just contact you whenever they are having like a panic or a meltdown without considering that this has to be done in a systematic way where you have to make an appointment. And I'm just saying that this could be a possibility. And that's not to say that you are shutting down all communication altogether. You're just making it very clear that this is the only time when you can be corresponded with, and it has to be done via appointments. Now, if that's not your boundary and if it's something else, that's fine. But the point being that you don't want anyone to walk all over you. And that's why it's very important that, yes, you are a healthcare provider. It is your job to take care of your patients, but not at the expense of your time, energy, and peace. So, as I said, I will look into this in much more detail in the next few videos. But yeah, that is a huge reason why healthcare providers really fall into this trap of not really being clear about what their boundaries are, and if they are clear, how to enforce them in such a way that it's effective and does the job, and you're being confident and clear, whilst also maintaining that respect and trust with your patients. So that's the other one. And finally, it is cultural and language barriers. Now, I can speak from someone who comes from a culture where women are very much treated, sort of viewed and expected to be caregivers to everybody. So whether it's for her parents, the husband's parents, the husband himself, their children, we are always conditioned and expected to do that. So if you sort of align that, sort of put the two together, so you have not just a healthcare provider, also a healthcare provider who's from a background like me, which is a Southern Asian one, the challenge becomes tenfold in that situation. So you are taught in my culture and several other cultures that, is your job to make other people happy. It's your job to not upset other people. It's not your job to keep the peace. It's your job to be the bigger person. So no matter how you're being treated by others, it doesn't matter. You are the one who has to show up and look after everybody. You are the one who has to be in everyone's good books and be in good faith. And this applies even when I have worked in workplaces. This is what I was always told, that don't say or do anything that's going to offend or upset or make you get on your boss's wrong side. I did it unconsciously, and that's why I became a very bad fit for the corporate world for many reasons. And that's why, because in many ways, this is one of the very toxic elements of certain cultures, and I've obviously done a lot of work on myself to really unprogram myself of everything that I was taught and I was exposed to from a young age. But yes, in several cultures, women are just told to get on with whatever it is that they have to do, and never complain and never speak to anyone or share their concerns. And you can never say no to anybody. That can be a very common challenge that people can experience when they're trying to set boundaries and they just don't know how to. So I have looked into a few reasons why setting boundaries may be a challenge for healthcare providers when they're working with their patients. Next week, I'll be covering what boundaries are and what boundaries aren't. There's a lot of misconception about what exactly the term means and what exactly the term doesn't mean. So we will look at that in much more detail, and followed by an obviously simple thing of what are some good strategies on how you as a healthcare provider can set boundaries with your patients. So to stay updated on those videos as well as all the others, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and also like this video if you got anything out of it, and leave some comments below on why you as a healthcare provider might be struggling to set boundaries with your patients. Until next time, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence, and I'll see you next week.